Welcome to another episode, everyone. Lil Bugsy from Six Deuce East Coast Crip, killed by Florencia 13 while sitting in the car with his wife. But there's a twist, because Lil Bugsy from Six Deuce East Coast Crip was 2 days away from testifying or giving a deposition against the police, the LAPD, for having killed Ezell Ford. He had witnessed the murder. And many people believe that the LAPD helped to set this up so that he can be taken out. I personally know Lil Bugsy. I was locked up with him in Avenal State Prison and in Chino State Prison. And how he is right here, as you're about to see, is how he really was. A strong, stand-up individual who really believed in his hood. Had no smut on him whatsoever. Rest in peace, Lil Bugsy. Man, this hurt me, man. You know, I was real tight with him. He was a stand-up individual. Someone has said in the comments, he said, "Just so you know, I fast forward when you start talking." Someone else has said, "Man, you talk too much in this video. I had to fast forward." But dude said, "Just so you know, I fast forward when you start talking." I didn't really have time to respond in the comments, so I'll respond now and say, just so you know, I don't give a fuck. Go over there and watch the original content. Go over there and watch the original creator if you don't want me to. I'm reacting, so I have to talk. I can't just play someone's video. I have to talk. So you can go watch I always say who the content creator is. I always say which channel it is that I'm reacting to, always. Not everyone does that, and I wish that they would, because I be wanting to know where they got the video from so I can go check it out myself sometime. But they don't say it, they don't put it in their description. I always say who the video came from, so you can go and check it out. This came from Boys in the Hood TV. Boys in the Hood TV. Shout out to Boys in the Hood. You, commenter, take your ass over there to Boys in the Hood and watch it. Then you ain't got to hear me talk. Let's get into it for everyone else who got my back.
Y'all from 66 East Coast. My name is Lil Bugsy. Everybody know me, nigga. You can find me right on the block, because this is where I'm at every day.
Welcome to Boys in the Hood TV. Today we're going to be discussing the death of a 6'6" East Coast Crip named Lil Bugsy on August 11, 2014. At around 8 p.m., Lil Bugsy from the East Coast Crips was sitting inside of his car with his wife eating their food on 65th and Broadway, located in the East Coast Crips neighborhood. Now, while sitting, Bugzy noticed that there was a LAPD patrol car following behind his homeboy, 25-year-old Ezell Ford, who was walking across the street. Now, only seconds later, that police patrol car would pull up near the curb, and two police officers will hop out with their guns drawn, yelling "freeze." Now, Ezell Ford would raise both of his hands as the officers pressed forward. As they backed forward against a bush in the driveway, one of the officers would tackle him to the ground, and a scuffle would break out. Now, in the midst of the scuffle, one of the officers would open fire, shooting Ford. That's when one of the neighbors who was outside would scream out that Ford had mental issues. But only seconds later, two more shots could be heard as Ford would stop moving. Police at this moment would then handcuff an unconscious Ford who had been shot in the arm, the abdomen, and back. Now, at this point, Lil Bugsy and other neighbors would come rushing closer to the scene as one of the officers would stand up with his gun drawn, aimed at the crowd. Now, police would call for more backup, which would arrive on the scene for crowd control. But it would be nearly 20 minutes before EMTs would arrive on scene to treat Ford. Ezell Ford will be transported to the hospital, where sadly, he will be pronounced dead not long after. Now, LAPD police chief would make a statement claiming that both officers, Rampler and Vilgas, claimed that during their investigative stop, they assumed Ford was armed, which is why they had their guns drawn when they first approached him. They would then claim that he kept his hands concealed when they told him to freeze. And as they approached Ford, they would then go on to claim that he resisted and grabbed one of the officers by the waist, tackling him to the ground. And from this point, they alleged that Ford got on top of the officer and attempted to grab his firearm. And this is when Officer Rampler, who was on the ground, would scream out that Ford was reaching for his gun. And that's when Officer Vilgas would shoot Ford in the arm. But officers further claim that Ford continued to fight and resist, and that's when he was shot again, this time in the abdomen area. They would then claim that even after this second shot, Ford continued to resist, and that's when Officer Rampler, who was on the ground, would be able to reach for his backup firearm, and he would shoot Ezell Ford in his back. Now, the medical examiner would reveal that the fatal shot was a gunshot wound to his back. Now, multiple witnesses would come forward to dispute this claim by the officers, which included Lil Bugsy, who would make his claims live on video.
When you get about right up in here, man, the police merge in, and the next thing you know, you heard a freeze or whatever, right? Both doors in the police car bust open, but the driver jump out first, and they rush the home. In this corner right here, man, there's a low-key scuffling going on right here in this corner right here. So the police on top of the homie, or whatever the case may be, you know what I'm saying? You hear a bah, you know what I'm saying? Then a bah, it's a delay, and then you hear shoot him. Then another bah. In my mind, like, they killed my nigga, you feel me? And then the other officer, you know what I'm saying, he jump up from the other crowd from right here, and he start pointing the gun to the homies, crazy shit, you feel me, for nothing. I mean, for about 20 minutes. My little nigga just laying here, cuz when the ambulance and fire truck finally did come, picked him up like he was a pig or something, homie.
Now, the death of Ezell Ford would lead to an uproar in the community and
it was indeed an uproar in the community when this transpired. As you can see, Lil Bugsy is referring to him as his homie, you know. Take that for what you will. And Lil Bugsy, again, is from 6 Deuce, East Coast Crip. And as we can see, Lil Bugsy, he witnessed everything. And he heard one shot, a delay, heard another shot, then heard the cop say, shoot him. Damn, they already did, shot him twice. And then they shot him again, killed him. I remember when this situation happened, vividly. Even though I was locked up at the time, I still remember it. It was a lot going on in the community over this situation, but you know, another black man killed by the forces that be, by the lineage of evil, of mutants. These people are a virus on the earth. They like to act like we are the virus. They are a virus to the earth, to humanity, these sick-ass people. So they killed Ezell Ford. As we can see, Lil Bugsy, he witnessed this whole thing. So, and you can see that he's, you know, his story is what he's about to say when he goes to testify, goes to have his deposition, which I may be getting ahead of myself, about to get into, but I already told you that at the beginning. He's about to have a deposition in 2 days to say everything that he's saying right here. That I witnessed it and bow. Somebody shoot him and they shot him again. We all know what happened here. They had no reason to shoot him. And of course, they were saying that Ezell Ford, at the time, they were saying that he had mental issues, as we just heard. You know, so they just, you know, it was a lot of protests over this situation out in LA. And 2 days before he can give his deposition and say what he just said right here.
protests and marches will be seen all over Los Angeles against the LAPD. Now, the officers that were involved in this shooting will be placed on administrative leave as the shooting was under investigation. Now, in November of 2014, Ford family will pursue legal actions against the LAPD, and they will ask that all witnesses come forward to make statements and to give their account of what took place the day that Ford was shot and killed. Now, Lil Bugsy will be one of the witnesses who will be set to testify in the suit. Now, with all of the protesting going on surrounding the death of Ezell Ford, there was still a violent war taking place in the Florence area between the East Coast Crips and Florencia 13. Now, these two gangs have been in a deadly rivalry for years, and at this time, the war was still happening. Now, Lil Bugsy was set to appear at a deposition on March 16th of 2015, but sadly, he wouldn't make it. 2 days prior to his deposition, at around 12 a.m., Bugzy, his wife Alice, and their two friends were driving down 65th near Broadway. As the vehicle stopped, that's when two members of Florencia 13 pulled up on bicycles and came up to the driver's side of the car, and they will open fire. Lil Bugsy will be struck multiple times with one shot to the back of the head and one shot to his neck as the shooters fled the scene. Now, no one else in the car was injured, but his wife would immediately call 911. But due to the head and neck wound, by the time EMTs arrive, Lil Bugsy will be pronounced dead at the scene. Now, police would investigate this shooting as gang-related.
News has confirmed a key witness in that case, named Leroy Hill, was murdered on the same block while in his Ford Mustang late Friday night.
Victim's a male black, approximately in his 40s. Again, he was in his vehicle as he was traveling east on 65th Street. He was shot and killed. Right now, the evidence.
Yeah, what are the odds? What are the odds? And I mean, I believe, as the narrator here said, again, Boys in the Hood TV. Shout out to Boys in the Hood TV. Keep doing your stuff. You're doing good work over there, brother. As he indicated, Ezell Ford was killed right here in the same area, on the same street, basically, right, 65th and Broadway. I believe that's what he had said. Lil Bugsy is right there on the same street where he witnessed this murder of Ezell Ford. And again, he's about to go get his deposition. And then of course, these two gangs have or had a decades long beef. I believe they've since made peace, which is okay because they had a deadly war going on. Many people lost their lives in that war on both sides. And we're tired of everyone losing their lives, black and brown. So it's good that that's over with, but they had a long war going. So, of course, some people believe that it's just, it was just a gang war. He was out there slipping or whatever. I don't know if he was slipping. I don't want to, but he was out there and they rode up on bikes and did what they did, and it had nothing to do with the police or what have you. But other people believe, of course, since he had that deposition coming 2 days later, and he was going to get up there clearly in a deposition and say what he just said, what we heard him say there on the video, which is that they shot him. Heard someone say, shoot him again. And they shot him again. They killed him.
That we have located back there on 65th Street, it appears as though somebody may have crept up on his car and shot him.
Police say the murder was gang-related. They still search for the shooter.
The tensions in the hood would boil over.
The shootout happened Sunday afternoon in the area where it occurred in South Los Angeles at 65th Street and Broadway.
200 block of West 65th Street in South Los Angeles is no stranger to crime scene tape. Currently, the LAPD is investigating a shooting involving two of their own. Just before 6 last night, investigators say on-duty narcotics officers in plain clothes and in an unmarked cruiser were shot at and grazed by gunfire.
They did return fire, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. At that time, several suspects ran in various directions and a perimeter was established.
But the shootings wouldn't just stop there. Not long after, members from Florencia 13 will be shot in a drive-by shooting, which was believed to be a retaliation for the death and murder of Lil Bugsy. Now, with these two ongoing investigations, with the death and murder of Lil Bugsy and the shooting involving the two police officers, the LAPD would make an arrest in May of 2015, and they would arrest 21-year-old Florencia 13 member in connection with the murder of Lil Bugsy. Now, the alleged shooter will be charged with 1 count of murder and 3 counts of attempted murder, shooting at an inhabited dwelling, and being a felon in possession of a firearm. Now, in December, Lil Bugsy's wife, Alice, will file a wrongful lawsuit death against the DA and others for failure to protect her husband, who was named a witness against the LAPD. It was stated that she believed his information had been leaked out, and she believed that if he had received the protection that he was promised, that he would still be alive. But by 2018, the Florencia 13 member would be acquitted on first-degree murder and 3 counts of attempted murder charges. But he would be found guilty of being a felon in possession of a firearm the night of the arrest, and he will be sentenced to 3 years in prison. Now, as of today, no one has been convicted of Lil Bugsy's murder. I would like to thank everybody for tapping in, and I'll see y'all next time.
Yeah, sounds about right, because as we know, that, as I've said often here, you can kill a black man and get away with it in this country. At the end of the day, black people's murders go unsolved the most in this country. This is just the data. These are just the facts. And yes, even when we take one another's life, which is more prone to happen than someone else taking our life. When a black man takes another black man's life, the statistics do not change. The data is the same, that this individual has a better chance of getting away with this because he unalived another black man than he does if he unalives anyone else. Rest in peace to Lil Bugsy. Let me know what you all think in the comments. Taken out, sitting there in his car with his two friends and his wife, as we heard, shot in the back of the head and in the neck. He was about to testify or whatever, get a deposition 2 days after, 2 days later, 2 days from the date of his brutal murder. And that never happened. And no one was ever held responsible that I can recall for Ezell Ford's murder. But of course, that's not surprising either. This is America. I'm going to leave it there. Not go on and on about it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Stay safe and stay free, people.